When Franklin Roosevelt became president, he offered a New Deal for the American people.
What was the New Deal?
Represented a series of programs and policies implemented by Franklin Delano Roosevelt with the intention of combating the effects of the Great Depression, and the main goals can be referred to as the 3 R's.
How was it put in place?
One of the primary reasons Roosevelt won the presidency in 1932 was because he promised to try and do something to end the economic crisis that the country was facing.
As he entered the office, Roosevelt hoped to do 3 things.
First, he hoped to provide relief for the poor and unemployed.
Next, he wanted the economy to recover to its normal levels.
Finally, he wished to reform the financial systems so that an economic depression would not happen again.
Relief, recovery, and reform became known as the 3 R's.
To accomplish these goals, Roosevelt implemented a series of government programs in between 1933 to 1939.
Regulate the stock market to make it run more smoothly. One of the New Deal programs was the Civilian Conservation Act, or CORE, and this was a program for young men. It was sort of a military-style arrangement. They stayed at camps, they had a mess hall, and these men will go out and work, usually in conservation work, building state. Other, which was the Social Security Administration, was created to provide financial support to senior citizens as well as those who are unemployed. And the Agricultural Adjustment Act, or administration, was created to put regulation in agriculture. Some farmers were producing too many crops, certain were producing less, and that caused fluctuation in prices. And the Agricultural Adjustment Administration was used to regulate the price of agricultural goods and also to pay farmers not to plant on their property.
Some of these programs were approved by Congress, while others he enforced through executive order.
Collectively, these programs became known as the New Deal.
The New Deal is frequently referred to in 2 different parts.
The first New Deal, which was enacted between 1933 to 1934, was largely concerned with the restructuring the nation's economy and offering relief in the bank industry.
The second New Deal, or the Second 100 Days, was enacted between 1935 and 1938, sought to improve the use of the nation's resources, provided relief for farmers, and created various government work programs.
There are many different types of programs that are part of the New Deal.
These programs had a variety of different intended purposes.
The first New Deal, which was enacted between 1933 and 1934, was largely concerned with restructuring the nation's economy and offering relief to the banking industry. The second New Deal, which was enacted between 1935 and 1938, sought to improve the use of the nation's resources, provided relief for farmers, and created various government work programs.
The Wagner Act was created, which allowed for workers to bargain for better pay and work conditions.
Programs such as the Works Progress Administration, the WPA, and the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, were designed to put the unemployed people to work.
The WPA provided 8 million public work jobs, from building airports, roads, and schools, as well as supported the arts.
The Social Security Act was created to provide a financial relief to the elderly.
Of the Second New Deal and/or the crowning achievement of its communist plot, the Social Security Act of 1935. Social Security included unemployment insurance, aid to the disabled, aid to poor families with children, and of course retirement benefits. It was and is funded through payroll taxes rather than general tax revenue, and while state and local governments retained a lot of discretion over how benefits would be distributed, Social Security still represented a transformation in the relationship between the federal government and American citizens.
This system provided direct relief to the unemployed, infirmed, and the elderly.
Meanwhile, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the TVA, brought much-needed electricity to rural areas in the South.
The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, was another important agency created by the New Deal.
The FDIC guaranteed the safety of money in banks.
Citizens no longer had to fear losing their money if their bank closed. This scenario was very common in the early years of the Great Depression.
The FDIC is still in operation today to ensure money deposited in the banks.
Aside from the FDIC, there are many government agencies that were created by the New Deal, which still exist.
Amongst them are the Federal Housing Administration, the FHA, the Federal Crop Insurance Corporation, the FCIC, and the Security Exchange Commission, the SEC.
The Federal National Mortgage Association, the National Labor Relations Board, the Social Security Administration, and the Soil Conservation Service were all created by the President.
But not everyone was a fan of the New Deal.
Many felt that Roosevelt was leading the United States down the path of socialism.
Others saw the New Deal project as a waste of money and resources.
Today, some economics and historians believe that Roosevelt's adherence to the New Deal policies actually prolonged the Great Depression.
However, New Deal programs did put millions of people to work, providing economic relief for struggling families.
The New Deal initiatives also allowed for the construction of roads, schools, parks, hospitals, and many other facilities that were needed throughout the nation.
Not all of the New Deal policies were embraced by the American public.
Court stacking was one issue that caused great tension between Roosevelt and the system of checks and balances.
This appeared to be constitutional power grab and was considered to be the biggest mistake of Roosevelt's presidency.
To save the New Deal, Roosevelt proposed a radical piece of legislation, a bill to give him the power to appoint additional justices to the Supreme Court and outnumber his opponents. On Capitol Hill, critics argued that Roosevelt's bill challenged the Constitution itself.
I shall not be a party to breaking down the checks and balances of the Constitution.
A packed jury, a packed court, and a stuffed ballot box are all on the same moral plane. This is more power than a good man should want or a bad man should have.
This is a nonpartisan battle to preserve an independent Supreme Court.
While providing for direct relief to the American people, some reforms to the government and recovery for the economy, FDR's New Deals laid the groundwork for security in the future.